What do you think are successful uses of psychedelics? Like, what do you think are good, healthy, or, what is a successful psychedelic experience?
Yeah.
Feel for you.
All right, so we forgot to add one to the list, and this one is a little debatable, but like MDMA, methylene deoxymethamphetamine.
MDMA, yeah.
I consider a psychedelic. I think a lot of people do as well.
Right.
But I think that it is showing the most promise in clinical therapy to decrease signs of PTSD, depression, and anxiety and stuff like that. And I would say that's a successful way of using them.
So using it for inner work or for healing, psychological applications.
Yeah, for therapy. I would say like that's a pretty good way of using it. And while like I said, like I wouldn't recommend people doing psychedelics on their own, I do think that like a successful psychedelic trip by yourself can be one of the most empowering experiences too. So like being able to make it through the darkness by yourself without aid, I think can be very beneficial to one's psychology. And so I would say like a successful trip by yourself where like nothing went wrong or like that you made it out on the other side better. But there's so many factors at play there. So it's hard to hard to pin that one down.
So one is a healing type of journey, whether it's psychedelic, an assisted psychedelic experience with a therapist, which I did with the ketamine assisted psychotherapy here in town. Did 9 sessions of that, and it's what you described earlier. You're getting IV ketamine. You've got a therapist on one side. You've got a registered nurse on the other side administering, and it's an extreme and very powerful experience. And then on the other side, you kind of have this solo journey of psychedelics where you're walking alone and maybe realizing yourself that you can go through an experience solo.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think like, to me, whether or not I had a good psychedelic experience or not, it's typically not, I don't measure it by the psychedelic experience, but like how I was changed or affected afterwards during like an integration period. Because like I can have a great, amazing experience using psychedelics, but then not change anything. And so I think the real metric that I should be looking at to whether or not it was a successful or failed psychedelic experience would be, did I actually look at and change the behaviors I wanted to when I went in, and then after when I went out? And did I actually like make actionable changes in my behavior?
Yeah.
And I would say like that's the metric that I really want to focus on and look at.
Yeah, that makes sense. It reminds me of the default mode network.
Yeah.
And this idea that when you go into these psychedelic trips, part of it is restructuring or allowing you to impact that default mode network. So when you come out of it, the experience you've had is either reset that or allowed you to move the meter on some stuff. Folks use psychedelics to stop smoking cigarettes or to change big life behaviors.
Yeah, I think the science shows that it makes your brain maybe like more neuroplastic, or like you're more open to changing your behaviors afterwards. And there's like some kind of psychedelic pioneer that talks about like how if you're skiing and you're skiing down the same slope over and over again, there's kind of like your tracks kind of get stuck and there's not really anywhere else you're going to go. You're just going to follow the track down. But then taking psychedelics is like, you just got that fresh pow.
Fresh powder, baby.
Everywhere. And then now you can go and have a different experience because you're less locked into that same way of thinking or behaving. And so kind of gives you the opportunity afterwards, if you've got the right motivation, to go and change how you're doing things for better.
To be in a rut.
Yep.
I think about those wagon trails. And it can be really great if the road leads to, positive experiences. But a lot of folks had challenging childhoods or have, a lot of shadows, insecurity, depression, a lot of those types of things. And those roads lead to depression, anxiety, self-defeating, self-limiting beliefs, behaviors like addiction,
like maladaptive behaviors. Yeah.
So we want them to make new changes, throw down some new tracks, and see what else is out there.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience. That was my kind of journey, to find other ways of thinking, other ways of being.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not when I was a kid. And this gives me another question, which is, do you think the intention matters as far as the impact of, I'm just going to call it the medicine?
Yeah.
Do you think if you're doing it recreationally at a rave or doing it intentionally in a spiritual ceremony, do you think the mind or the body cares the setting, that type of thing?
Does the mind or body care?
Or is it just like exposure to the medicine brings spiritual awakening or some kind of opening or
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is such a complicated question because, like, I would do different psychedelics for different intentions. Like, if my intention is to, like, go and have fun and, like, have, like, a more, like more sensory input and, like, be able to, like, feel more of a spectrum of feelings, I would take LSD at, like, a music festival. And, like, I'm going to hear the music more crisp. I'm going to see the visuals more crisp. And, like, my whole body is, like, open. But I don't think I'm really going to get, like, a spiritual epiphany from taking LSD at a music festival.
Yeah.
But I would still do it. But if my intention might be to, like, look at a behavior of mine or, like, a deep-rooted trauma or something, if I was doing it solo, I'd probably use psilocybin. And it seems like to me, psilocybin has a way of, it doesn't let you get away. It's like, hey, here are the things, like, you can't ignore me. LSD feels like I can put my attention over here and just enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And like, oh, now I'm looking at, like, this trauma. Oh, I want to go dance, and I can just go dance. Yeah. But yeah, I think that psilocybin kind of puts my attention down on the thing. But then if I was going to do it in a group, I'd probably recommend MDMA for myself, to have someone kind of walk me through the forgiveness of myself and just, yeah, that whole experience of MDMA.
what makes an ingredient psychedelic? Like you said, you did some research on what exactly is a psychedelic. What makes something a psychedelic?
Well, I think the definition of a drug is like something like a mind-altering substance. So, like, I would say alcohol, caffeine; those are drugs, and I think you can loop up all the psychedelics in the category of drugs. But then once you start separating, that's when it gets a little bit more tough. Some researchers have said, like, well, it has to have an affinity for these receptors in your mind for it to be a psychedelic. So then you could get into the nitty-gritty of that. But I think the argument I made on why cannabis is a psychedelic was something like, if you've taken an edible that was way too big of a dose, you know that it was a psychedelic.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you know it when you see it, or you know it when you experience it. Because I think in low doses, psychedelics are more like nootropics, and they just like change your brain structure, or like change the way your brain's working a little bit. But in higher doses, like LSD in microdoses is not the same as like LSD in macrodoses. And so I think the dose matters a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like I might not have answered that question.
No, you did fine.
Okay.
It's probably, I think what I heard you say is, it's hard to know. Some of it is which receptors it's impacting in the brain. And that was the answer that I got.
Yeah. And like MDMA, some people say it's not because it doesn't affect those same receptors, or it's not as like visually psychedelic.
So the answer I heard was kind of the same answer the Supreme Court gave around obscenity.
Obscenity, yeah. You see it, right? You know it when you see it. Yeah.
I don't know how to define it, but I know it when I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So like, go to the internet real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you take too many puffs on a joint and you haven't smoked weed in a while, to me, it's like you just entered the peak of an LSD trip. Very similar, like high dose cannabis, high dose LSD. I think subjectively they're very similar. Like I generate grandiose sense of meaning and extreme paranoia. That's more the cannabis, but yeah.